Hey, what's up, everybody? This is an open discussion with C3 Films. My name is Chris, and this is.
Cheryl.
And today we're going to be talking about the special bonus episode that we got of Sandman. So, this was an episode that wasn't included with the original release of the first 10 episodes and came out I think it was a week later, it came out on Netflix for people to enjoy. So, we are going into spoiler territory for that one episode. So, if you haven't seen it, it's a little bit over an hour. Go check it out, watch it, and then come back and see what we had to say about it. But without further ado, let's go ahead and just jump right into this. So, I remember that you were telling me that the episode didn't have anything to do with anything else within. It's a one-off, or as you would say, a standoff. And like, I wasn't sure what that meant. And so when the reason I know how long the episode was because when I started it and I saw that it was about cats, I was like, how is this going to be an hour and 16 long minute episode? So I watched it and I was like, okay, well, this is interesting. I like what I'm seeing and I like the animation. I'm liking what this is. And then it ends at like the 16-minute mark and then a new episode begins. So when that happened, I love anthologies. So like I love things like the Animatrix, Love Death Robots, like all these types of anthology series, Black Mirror, like I enjoy them. So when I saw that a new episode was happening in the same episode, I thought to myself, "Oh, are we about to get a like anthology of like Sandman related like stories with different animation styles and stuff like that? Yo, this is about to be cool. Like I'm really excited." But that's not at all what that episode is. There are two episodes in that episode. There's the animated episode, then the live action episode, and that's it. So I'm not gonna lie, I was a little disappointed to not see that there were multiple different stories because it kind of got me excited at the prospect of there being multiple different stories. But once I was able to get past the fact that I realized that I was only getting two stories related to Sandman, they're still both solid stories.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that was explained to me. I know our Sandman experts are not here today, but they what they let me know though is that the way the comics are is kind of the Sandman is not a main character in all of the stories, and sometimes he's not even in some of the issues because they're sometimes just about the dreamings and the other characters and such, and sometimes he'll just have like a small like kind of cameo or presence in the issue, and that's a lot of what this episode was like. And he kind of told me that because when he read the title he was like, oh yeah, it's not, you know, these are the, like, he was excited about it, but he kind of anticipated that it was going to be this way. So I thought it was interesting. If I worry like if I wasn't getting this, extra information from the
If you would
experts.
enjoy it as much.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
But you seem to be having fun with it, so maybe it just overall it seems like generally they've been doing a really good job with putting the comics into a live action, or in this case animated version. So
Yeah, and I think that for me, I'm going to enjoy it as long as the storytelling is interesting and good. I don't mind. I actually really don't mind if Sandman doesn't show up in some of these episodes. I just like seeing how it can tie back to the larger narrative, cuz like even when I see Sandman Morpheus within the series itself, he does kind of feel like kind of just this external force to me. And he almost kind of feels like Jack Sparrow, where I'm like, I'm interested when he's on the screen, but I don't necessarily need to see him all the time. And actually, if you hold him back a little more, it makes me appreciate him more when he is on screen. So that's how I've kind of been pulled in to Sandman. And so for me, episodes like this wouldn't frustrate me because one, they're solid stories, and two, they usually tie back into Sandman in some way. And even if it's still like if it's just like a little moment, that's usually enough for me. But I could see how maybe somebody who doesn't share that same mentality and is watching a story called Sandman and has no relationship to the comics could watch it and be like, "Well, I'm here for the main character. Why am I seeing all these other characters that aren't him?"
Yeah, and I think the reason why they're able to even pull that off in the comics is because of just how interesting the world is. There is a lot of world building, and there's a lot of, interesting themes, and I think that's what really carries the stories along so much so it's not depending on the Sandman character himself, but it's really just a level playing field of everything combined. So I think that's why, because when I first saw the episode about the cats, I was like, I think I had the same reaction as you, where I'm like, oh, cats, how is this going to be about the Sandman? And it was, and it wasn't, because it was about the
Mm-hmm.
cats, but the cats had a dream, and the dream was not just about like a dream that Sandman is in, but it's a dream where like it's their hopes and dreams, like what they want for themselves one day. And I think that kind of story is in itself is powerful enough where you can tell that story in 16 minutes and it'd be cool. And Sandman is in it in the shape of a cat, like a really
Yes.
big cat, which is really cool. And you know it because you could hear his voice and
Same voice.
his personality is there. And like, he's just this kind of godfatherly figure that has that same presence in the following episode, anthology episode, even though he has a bigger role to play in that one.
Yeah, and even in that second one, so we could talk about that for a second. He doesn't actually show up in that one until the end. Like basically the last couple of minutes, like maybe the last 15, 20 minutes of that storyline is when he shows up. But it's interesting because of the fact that the story is about this guy who I forget the actor's name, but you've seen him on Doctor Who and in Legends of Tomorrow. But I like that actor. I think he was Rory in
Doctor Who.
not Doctor Who. Thank you. And so he has this thing where he's a writer, and that's another reason that episode like kind of spoke to me. Like a friend sent me a image the other day that was like, what is your greatest fear? And the person pulled out like a blank page and then just held it up, and the other person said, it's just a blank sheet of paper, and the person said, I'm a writer, and it's great. Like I get it, and that's the whole point of this story is that this is a writer that isn't feeling inspired and doesn't know how to write like a story after writing like one really really good one. He doesn't know what he was going to do next. So he finds this guy who apparently has a woman trapped in his closet, and because it's Sandman there's going to be some type of supernatural aspect to this, and you find out that it's because she's a muse. And so this guy tries to, I guess, try to swoon her or woo her or try to like get her to, because she's given to him by this guy, and because of the rules of her world she is bound to him unless he sets her free by saying the words. And he wants to utilize her to like get to be his muse, but she just wants her freedom. So he says to her, after I write this book, I will free you. And she has this look like, I've heard that before. I know exactly where this is going to go. And that's exactly what happens. He ends up, I guess, kind of forcing her to give him inspiration. And then years later, he still has her trapped because he starts to feel like he needs her. And that is kind of similar like to the very first episode of Sandman that we saw, where you see this apparently good person kind of be corrupted and doing the same thing that the person before them was going to do, even though they seem to detest that action before.
Yeah, humans. No, but really, the whole time I was like, I wish he would just like set her free and then she'll help him because she'll be so thankful that he set her free. But of course, if he did that, then there would be no episode and there would be no
Yeah.
show. So I feel like they did a pretty good job of making him be that kind of character that could not conceive the idea of if he lets her go, then she will help me. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that really worked out. And then the other thing that I thought was really cool about this episode is how like you said earlier, Dream doesn't come into the story until like the last, I don't know, 15 minutes of it. And the little bit that he's in is like, I don't know about you, but I was like, oh shoot, you're in trouble now.
I was like, oh man, you should have just set this woman free. You should have set her free,
Yeah.
man. You don't want this smoke.
You,
You don't want it.
yeah. I mean, at first I thought like he wouldn't help her because they're like exes, but then
Yeah.
they, I mean, I guess because they're like immortal beings, they still have, room in
Feelings.
them to, yeah. But I thought it was cool to like see this other side of him, and I asked the experts, is this in the comics? Because like he has this romance going on, and that's kind of cool because I didn't expect that from a character like Dream, where he's just like, every day I have the same job I gotta do, and I gotta take care of these
Mm-hmm.
people. It just didn't seem like it was in his character to have relationships or family. So, well, I mean, I know he has family, but not that kind of family. So, I thought that was an interesting expansion of the universe that this is. So, I'm kind of interested in learning more about Dream.
Yeah, well, because the show also starts to go into the lore of gods, right? Like she, I think, was a part of the Greek pantheon of gods, and they start mentioning like characters like Orpheus, which I think was their son, who I think went to hell to fight and then died, and I think that's the son that they lost, and which is why they like kind of fell apart from each other. But I one thing I feel is that even though this episode is not a part of the regular storyline, I still feel like you have to watch this episode last. And the reason is because of how Morpheus is different in this episode, because don't forget that in the early episodes of Sandman, he when he's in hell, he meets a former lover in hell, and she asks him if he has forgiven her and if he would help her, and he says that he still or he I think he says something like, I still love you but I haven't forgiven you yet, and then he leaves her there, and she says, I'll never stop holding out hope. So we've seen him leave somebody that he's cared about, just behind if it suits him. But in this moment, he doesn't do it with this person. And so I read that as two ways. One is that he might have been more in love with this person, but two, I read it as after the final episode of the regular 10 episodes, you see that he started to change. And so this just felt like a continuation of that character arc that we've already been seeing. And I had a lot of appreciation for that, seeing it after I'd already seen how he had kind of grown in the original 10 episodes.
Yeah, it's interesting in the sense that it sounds like he's quite complex because he's kind of known to be unforgiving. Like if
Mm-hmm.
you do something to cross him, then you're you're really gonna get it. Like he's really going to punish you, and he's not gonna take it easy on you at all. And then the other thing that is really interesting that they continuously show is just how he has different names. He has different, what do you call, like states of being. Like he was a
Mm-hmm.
cat. They call him Morpheus. They call him Dream. He was a brown man for the lover in
Mm-hmm.
hell. So he has different names and he has different forms, and that's because everybody, it's kind of like everybody has a different god, around the world.
Yeah.
There's all these different religions, but ultimately they're all thinking kind of the same person, and that same person is him. So
Mm-hmm.
that's that is a cool idea that is explored and shown in that different episode. So I appreciate that, and I thought it was a really cool way of character design, and just having it in the show makes him like that much more interesting. Like he takes the form of the will of the person that is seeing him.
Right. Yeah, no, like there's so much lore and it's probably because it's from the comic book, but there's so much lore in the show, and I'll be definitely curious to see more. I was pleasantly surprised that there was an extra episode, and yeah, I'm glad because that's got to hold us over until we eventually get a season two, and my hope is just that they don't mess up season two. But that's just about everything that I had to say on it. Like, was there anything else that you kind of like want to say that you kind of felt about these, these two episodes in one?
Just real quick. Sandra Oh was the voice of the cat, and I thought that was pretty
Oh,
awesome.
I didn't
Um,
know. I didn't watch the credits
the
for that
credits.
like at the end of it, so I didn't catch that. But that's awesome.
Apparently, James McAvoy is also voicing one of the characters in that, but I don't know which one it is. So maybe you can let me know. Maybe one of you can let me know who it is. But I haven't figured it out. I watched it again so I could try to like listen in, but apparently I don't know what he sounds like. So, but I think that's rad that they got these stars to play these characters in a 16-minute animated short about cats. So.
Yes, and to tell you the truth, the guy that plays Dream, I like him playing Dream, but I kind of also like him as a voice. When I heard him voicing the cat, like obviously I knew that the voice was just the voice he uses when he's acting, but even from an animated perspective, I was like, your voice still works because that doesn't always happen. Just because somebody does a good job with their voice, like in live action, doesn't mean they're a good voice for animated. But his still worked, and so there's actually an animated movie about death that I think that came out last year or is like coming out this year. But I'd be curious if he would come back and reprise his role in other animated stories where they have the need for Sandman. But I wouldn't be opposed because I like his voice.
Yeah, I hope so too. Apparently, Neil Gaiman was also voicing one of the dead crows in the dream. So, but yeah, it's could definitely go back and take a look at it. I mean, it's only 16 minutes, but even if you aren't not really into Sandman, or you just want to watch a quick thing, you can watch that quick 16-minute bit. It has nothing to do with anything else. You don't even need
True.
to know who Sandman is. It's just a one off, not send off story. So,
Exactly. But yeah, that's what we thought about the bonus episode of Sandman. But what did you guys think about it? Have you finished watching the original 10 episode run of Sandman? Have you seen the bonus episode? Was it something that you were expecting? Do you want to see more episodes kind of like this in the future from just the Sandman property by Netflix? Whatever you thought about it, comment below. Let us know. And while you're down there, if you give us a like, share, and subscribe, you can hit this little thing over on the side here. It'll take you to other videos that we've done in the past. It would be great to have you guys. Even if you don't, though, I have been Chris, and this has been
Cheryl, and we'll see you all next time.